And welcome back for that break piece. We are here in the JJ Zone, join the Journey Radio today, talking about how your future really is as bright as your faith. I realized after I started recording, it's like you really should make a more concerted effort with your wardrobe. 'Cause here I am talking about how your future can be bright. Look, I'm wearing this gray shirt with this dark suit coat. Come on, man. You need dark colors. And you're talking about how your future can be bright. I don't know. I kind of got a bright background with the yellow and the Join the Journey Radio logo. So maybe that'll make up for it. Hopefully it will. Keep our fingers crossed. So, yeah. They were talking about how our future can be bright as our faith. And for a lot of LDS singles, you talk about a bright future. A lot of them interpret that in terms of dating and potential to find, you know, uh, an acceptable marriage partner. We'll put it that way. Because there are plenty of people that you could marry just to check the item off a lifetime to-do list. But yeah, most people don't really want to do that. They look around, they see the high divorce rate. They realize, hey, I don't want this happening to me. Many of them have personal experience with divorce. Many of them have parents who are divorced, so in one way or another, they feel the effect of this and they don't want that in their lives. They want to, unite themselves with a companion that really is a forever marriage. And they want the relationship that's represented in that type of union. So a lot of singles are going to interpret this idea of a bright future in terms of dating and marriage potential. And I, I'm just going to repeat what I said in the monologue, that bright futures begin with faith. And in terms of dating and marriage potential, this really means two things. So, like I said in the monologue, the first is, there are those singles who look around and they say, there's nobody here to date, right? They don't see the acceptable candidates. And it's not that there aren't any acceptable candidates living where they live. There are acceptable candidates living where they live. It's just that you're not crossing paths with those acceptable candidates. And so, because they're not a part of what you immediately see, because we all have this tendency, right, to judge by what's immediately around us. If something's not standing directly in your backyard or on your front porch, it's almost like it doesn't exist because you're not seeing it. And so we tend to make these sweeping judgments and conclusions based on the very limited vision that we have with what we see directly around us. And what I'm asking us to do is just take a step back and just see a broader picture, because faith is the evidence of things not seen, right? We understand faith as helping us to see what we don't really see. Uh, you know, this whole idea of vision and what you see is so vital. My favorite scriptural passage with respect to vision and what we see, goes back to Moses chapter 6 in the Pearl of Great Price, where Enoch gets called by the Lord. And of course, he doesn't see himself as the mighty prophet that the Lord sees him to be. And so, when he, protests and resists the call to go and preach repentance to the people and, act in the role of a prophet, the Lord says, anoint your eyes with clay and you'll see. And so, he did that. He had the faith to follow the Lord. And by doing that, the scales from his eyes, I love the poetic way that it's described in Moses 6, the scale of his eyes, came off, and he was able to see more of, who he really was and what he could become and what the Lord had in mind, not only for him, but for all of his brothers and sisters here on earth. And so I think in dating, we have the same problems, right? We need to get the scales off our eyes. We need to stop looking at what's directly around us, what we immediately see in front of us. And we need to branch out. Okay. Now, some people do this by signing up for an online dating service. And that is one way that you can broaden your vistas. what I was really hinting more at in the monologue when I said, you need to branch out and see new vistas is that you need to start doing different things in your life, right? Because always you're not crossing paths with that special someone. It may be because that special someone is there living where you live, but you know, because of the way you structured your life and the way that somebody else has structured his or her life, that you're not crossing paths. And so you need to start doing different things. You need to start going to different places. You need to start being, in different spots, different locales. You need to change your schedule up. Start doing different things. And this will actually help you to see, broaden your vision, and help you to see. Because when you're crossing paths with different people, all sorts of new different people, it'll broaden your vision and help you to believe more that the person you're looking for really is out there. You're just not crossing paths with that someone, and that you don't see that someone because you're not crossing paths with them. Now, the other way that this could work, the faith helps us to see, just like Enoch was taught to see that he was a prophet, that he didn't see that before, but then the Lord showed him, yeah, you really are the prophet I'm calling you to be, and he began to see that. Faith can help us to see that the people around us that we discount as potential marriage partners and that we don't want anything to do with them, faith helps us to see that many of these people that we've discounted actually are good and acceptable partners. And a lot of what gets in the way of that is just this idea of perfection. We've all heard it, right? You're looking for the perfect partner. And we all would give like lip service, I think, to rejecting the idea of perfection in a partner. And yet so many of us with our actions do the exact opposite. And it's because, we're following that natural mindset. We haven't rejected the natural man and the natural woman. We're not looking for a covenant relationship. We're not valuing the things that are prized by the covenant man and the covenant woman. That's really what it comes down to. Because, for the example, a natural woman is going to follow hypergamy. It's going to insist on nothing but top shelf. And anything that's below where she perceives her value to be, you're invisible. So, brethren, if you've ever had that, feeling of being invisible around women, it's because these women are hypergamous. They're natural women. They're more natural than covenant is really technically what I should be saying. Their mindset is more natural than covenant. Because if they were more of a covenant woman and you're a worthy priesthood holder, you hold the temple recommend, you're active, you're keeping the standards, you're doing what you can to live the gospel and to be a better disciple, they should want that. Because that's what the covenant woman wants. Because the covenant woman prizes making and keeping sacred covenants above all else. So the covenant mindset is going to look at that and say, yeah, I don't really feel the natural inclination to go after this man, but I'm going to give him the time of day because I want the covenant mindset. I want to make and keep sacred covenants more than I want to satisfy the natural inclination. And you can make the same argument for men, right? A man who's looking at, a woman who may not have as much youth and beauty. These are the things that attract the natural man as another woman, but yet she's strong, she's solid. She'll support her husband, whoever that happens to be, in helping him to make his life the best that it could be. That type of woman, may not have, all the youth and looks, but hey, if she's got that most important factor, brethren, we should be giving those women more opportunities. We should be asking them out. And, but, the reason why many of us don't is because we have that natural mindset. And a lot of the problem with the natural mindset is that it's not recognized as the natural mindset. We simply tolerate these attitudes as simply, this is just the way it is. It's just the way men and women are built. And that is the way men and women are built. That's why it's called the natural mindset. Because that's how you naturally are. But if you're going to break out of this, you know, you got to have that covenant mindset. And because many of us don't have that covenant mindset, we're stuck with these ideas of we need to have top shelf, we need to have the best. And attending those attitudes is the assumption, and it's a false assumption, that if you don't have the best, if you settle for second rate, you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life, and you'll be dead for all eternity. I mean, that's simply not true. That is simply not true. The maximum amount of joy that comes from, embracing the definition of happiness, which is giving your all to all the right things for you. And all the right things for you includes making and keeping sacred covenants. And when we embrace these attitudes that, steer us away from making those covenants or from prizing something else above making covenants, we get what we give, right? It's like, you're going to stay single longer than need be because you're turning down all of these opportunities to have the joy that you're really looking for, because you've got this mistaken idea that the joy you're looking for can only come one way, and that's with a top shelf candidate. And that is absolutely not true. There are many, many, many people who are not top shelf, or, or they marry someone else who's not top shelf, and they have wonderful, joyous lives. It's not about position. It's about direction. It's about where you're going and where you're taking yourself. And those who follow the natural mindset are so fixated in this life that they're not really going far in eternity. But those who are going to go far in eternity are those who have their mind fixed in that direction. And so they prize the eternal things over the worldly things. I can look at the clock here and see that I'm going long. So we're going to continue discussion after the break. We're going to take a break now, because this part of being on a radio station, you got to have these, advertisements. That's part of the deal. So we're going to take a break, and then when we come back from the break, I want to delve more into this topic. I want to go more into, how do we conquer that natural mindset? How do we get it so that we can actually feel the joy that comes from embracing the covenant mindset? And I want to talk about some of the other things I talked about in the monologue. So I will see you there after the break on the other side.